Hello, Revere, and welcome to another great show. And when I say another great show, because we have another great person today. Her name is Carol Ty, former superintendent of schools for the City of Revere. Carol, it's an honor and a pleasure to have you. Thank you.
Thank you, Morris.
Right.
I always enjoy talking to you,
Right.
And especially because you always tell wonderful jokes.
Not only that, but Carol, I got to tell you, when I walk out of here, I'm 20 times smarter just talking to you. Okay, which is great.
I don't think so, but I'll take credit for it anyway.
Carol, before we start, tell us a little about you. You used to be a teacher in the public Revere schools.
I was.
Give us a
right.
little history about your education, and I got a whole load of questions here.
Okay. I was, well, I was lucky enough to go to Boston State College, and then even luckier to get a scholarship to BC. And I went there and I got my master's degree there, and then went on to UMass and got a certificate of advanced graduate study in administration. But I really got that degree just because I liked going to school. So I always tried to travel in the summer if I could. And when I couldn't afford it, then I went to school and studied, and before you know it, you get certifications, what they call now a license, in a variety of places. So I began my career in 1960 at Revere High School, the old Revere High School, where Immaculate Conception Church is now. And I taught English. A few years I also taught Latin, but mostly I always taught English and writing, literature. Loved teaching that. Just loved to read, loved literature, loved doing the acting, loved all of that. Loved being with the kids. There's nothing like being...
Well, you're with a big one now.
Well, I think that if we all have a little bit of kid in us, then we have happy lives.
You're right.
So, and it's a world that's optimistic, and you know, it's always young, and you're challenged all the time, and you have to keep up with the kids. So it really helps you to stay as young as you can yourself.
Right. Carol, I'd like to ask you a question, if I may.
Sure, of course.
No, I mean, this has nothing to do with the computer with this. When you were the superintendent of schools, was the ROTC still there, or it began after?
Afterwards.
Oh, so you had nothing eventually to do with it?
Well, I was on the school committee when they came in. So I taught for 35 years at Revere High School, and then I became the assistant superintendent of schools for not quite a year, and then the superintendent of schools for another 5 years. So no, the ROTC was not there, but when I retired in 2001, I never had any expectation that I would be superintendent. Women didn't get those jobs. I never had any expectation that I would run for school committee. I thought friends would run, and all my life I had been politically active, so I would support some other people, you know, to run. And lo and behold, the person I wanted to support didn't, and I thought, well, I know how important it is for a superintendent to have people on the school committee who understand the job and who support him or her in doing that job. So I decided that I would run, and the superintendent who followed me had been my assistant. That's Paul Dakin, who did a great, great job for his years in the school department. And so that's how my life went. I moved from one position in the Revere Public Schools to another one. So I've been there for more than 50 years now.
Right. I could see why we have great schools in the City of Revere when we have people like you, Carol.
Lots of people like me.
And Mr. Paul Dakin, and the new superintendent, Mrs. Kelly, I believe.
She's wonderful. Yeah, Dr. Kelly. She's great. We have wonderful people on the school committee. We have people who really care about the kids. The teachers now, Morris, teachers always worked hard in my experience, always.
There's no end to their work. They take it home with them.
Absolutely. And I watch these young kids that we have coming in. I call them kids because they're only in their 20s, usually when we hire them. And they work so hard, and they're so good. It's really harder to become a teacher now. You have to have a license in a much more specified area
More than a Bachelor of Science?
Well, yes, you have to have a master's degree. You can get it within a period of time, but you need to have a license in that. So it used to be if you had a license in elementary ed, you could teach anything in elementary ed. But, not so. If you're going to teach math, you need an elementary ed math license. You need early childhood. It's much more difficult to get a license than it used to be. And they work very hard to get that. And then that the children benefit from because their education is so broad and so deep.
Right.
So,
I'd like to ask you a question, if I may.
certainly.
You are running for school committee, and you said, how long have you been part of the Revere public school system, which you said about 50 some odd years?
More than 50 years, right, since 1960. That's when I began.
So you started when you were about 3 or 4.
I tell the kids I was only 12.
Oh, okay. No,
But I
that's,
wasn't much older than my seniors. I taught seniors my first year. I wasn't much older than they were. And so it's quite interesting to have to be an adult when, when sometimes you're closer to the kids' age.
it's the superintendent's job to hire the teachers. I mean, you are the one that makes the final decision, or the school committee itself does?
Very, very good question, Morris. Before education reform, it was the school committee who hired with the superintendent's recommendation.
Right.
Once education reform came in the middle 90s, then it is the superintendent who hires.
Just reversed it.
They reversed it, with some exceptions. The school committee hires the superintendent. The school committee votes on the assistant superintendent's job.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And the school committee also hires nurses and truant officers. It's just a little quirk in the law, but otherwise the superintendent hires all of them. Now,
Do you still have truant officers?
yeah, oh yes, yes. Usually we try
bad.
to get kids into school, but the other job that they have is to find children who their parents want them to go to school in Revere because we have such a good school system. So we have people occasionally who live in Chelsea or East Boston want to come to school in Revere, and the truant officers go out and see whether they actually do live in Revere. And if they don't, well, we tell them you can't. The law is that you must go to school where you sleep the majority of time. And if you're sleeping in East Boston, then
You go to school in East Boston.
Yeah, that's right, exactly right.
That's good, because if the truant officer was around when I was a kid, he'd be living in my house all day.
Well, I think you must have been a challenge, Morris.
No, I have to tell you, because what I said, it may sound funny, but it's true. I went to the high school, the first year was Harron High in New York, which was located at 59th Street and 10th Avenue on Columbus Circle.
Oh, okay, I know Columbus Circle,
Right?
but that school's not there anymore.
It's not there anymore?
I don't think so.
Harron High, right. When we had to go to Harron High, we had to go by Times Square. And there was a group of us, 5 of us, like a little group, and we would go to school. But we would go and wind up in the Paramount Theater. No, this is no joke, this is true. For 10 cents. For 10 cents, you could get in the early morning, stay there to see 2 movies, and see a good stage show like Harry James, Xavier Cugat, all those. And the teacher would say to us sometimes, if your kids don't want to come here, don't worry. I'll bring the assignments over to the Paramount. We used to play a tremendous amount of hooky, and I did have the truant officer come over my house one time, only to mention that. And I never went to the theater, but that's what it was like when I went to school.
Well, you got your education from life. Now, kids can't be absent. They miss too much. There's too much that goes on during the school day. I mean, of course, if they're sick, then they stay home. But I don't think they can get into the Paramount for 10 cents anymore.
Oh,
either,
no.
so.
Well, the subway at that time was only a nickel in New York at the time, so it wasn't that bad.
Yeah,
So you can see how times have changed.
Well, I'll say they have. They certainly have.
Carol, I got a whole bunch here, and I got one that just came over. You know Mr. Google?
No, I don't. Mr. Google, I think I am not personally acquainted with.
Okay. Why do you want another term as a member of the school committee? Isn't it really tough? I mean, some of the things that come up to.
Well, there are some things that are really challenging. You're right. I mean, Partly because I want to support the superintendent. I think she's terrific. I think she's wonderful. And I want to support her. But I was also a union leader. You know, I was a leader of the union, one of the founding members of the Revere Teachers Association. So I have a vested interest in supporting not only the superintendent as a member of the school committee, but the teachers. I want things to be fair for the teachers. I want us to pay them a just wage. I wanted to pay them, I mean, we could never pay them as much as they really deserve, but I want to pay them as much as we can. I love to follow along about what they're doing when they come to the school committee. I love to listen to the kids. I mean, it's a wonderful world to live in, Morris. It's a wonderful world, and I appreciate how lucky I have been to have been there for that long. You know, God has blessed me with good health and with a lot of energy. I still go to the gym, and I feel that I hope that I can continue to give back for as much as has been given to me.
I hope you're around for a long time to do that, Carol, because they love you here.
Well, thank you. I have good friends. I have good neighbors. You know, I actually live in the house I was born in.
The one you're living in now?
Yes. I mean, I was born in the hospital, but I still live in that, and I've lived other places. But
You're
I came
lucky.
back when my mother got sick, and I just stayed. I'm still in that same house.
So you were born at a hospital, and I was born next to my mother.
You always have a comeback, Morris.
I got to ask you, what are some of the hobbies that you do, that you like?
What is the what?
Hobbies, your hobbies.
Oh, that's your New York accent. I wasn't sure what you were saying. Well, I do.
here's
I'm a
my-
life. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to tell you, when I used to go to first, Davy, and second, and third, now you listen to my
I
New York
really
accent.
am
They're the
looking to it.
coins.
You're right.
Now you know why I failed English?
No.
I didn't flunk it, but that was my worst subject in school.
Really?
Yep.
Oh. Well, you never know it because you're a wonderful talker. And the purpose of good English is to be a great communicator. And you are an absolutely marvelous communicator.
Well, that's not me talking. That's my ventriloquist.
Oh, I see. Oh, all right. You have a little help then from a friend, huh? I love to read. I love to keep my brain active, so I do puzzles every morning. I walk with my dog at least every night before I go to bed. Sometimes at other times too. I love my dog. I am lucky enough to have wonderful friends with whom I spend a lot of time. I'm very politically active too. I support a lot of candidates. I support other people. And so I try to keep both my brain active and my body active so that I can have enough energy to do what needs to be done.
I have to tell you, when I was in the Brockton VA, and they were very nice to me there, I learned how to do a puzzle. And that puzzle's called Sudoku, I'm sure.
Oh, I love that.
With the numbers, 1 to 9. And
Yeah, 1 to 9. Mm-hmm.
That is mind-boggling sometimes.
It certainly is.
Because if you make one mistake, you've made 2 mistakes.
You can't. If you make one mistake, that's it. You're gone.
And when I said to you I was very bad in English, I mean that because I cannot do crosswords because I don't understand some of the big words or what they mean there. So I stay away from that.
Yeah.
I'm crossword illiterate.
Yeah. Well, the Sudoku is a great game.
It is.
Wonderful
I
game.
was surprised, but it's nice the way you have to work it out, you know.
Because you don't have to be good in math. You
No.
just have to be logical.
And people, when they see it, they come over to me at the senior center and they say, how do you do that? And the easiest way I explain it to them is that you have a rectangle, you have a column, and you have a horizontal
Right.
column.
That's right.
You can only have numbers 1 to 9 in each one.
In
one
each
to-
block.
But you can't repeat a number, and they
Right.
don't have to be in order.
Right.
So one woman who never worked it came over to me one time, and she was faster than I was doing my own. She says, is this right? And I looked at
Yeah.
it, I says, yeah.
Yeah.
But I
It's
love
a
it.
fun thing to do.
And I learned that from the VA, so I want to
Well,
say
great.
thank you out there.
See, so it proves that they can teach us old dogs new tricks.
Definitely. A matter of fact, I know I'm an old dog.
No, we know we are.
No, did I tell you I went to an auction in Chelsea this Saturday night?
Oh, really?
4 people bid on me, so I don't. I don't know. Okay.
So somebody wants you, Morris.
Here's another good question. You know, I got to tell you, some of these I take off the computer to ask. And by the way, if the people out there are listening, you have any questions that you want, fax them into the RevereTV.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Question number, I guess I didn't make them in order.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
Oh, I don't know if I should ask you. Can I ask you any question I want?
Yeah, anything.
Were you part of the teacher's strike at one time?
I was, yes, I was. That was 30 years ago this year. As a matter of fact, I wrote a little something and teachers put in memories of it. You know, Morris, making the school department work is really, it's about dedication, but that's never been lacking, never, on anyone's part, and goodwill. What's always been lacking is money. And at the time, we knew that we could not improve education. I'll say we now as part of the teachers. Without having some time for all of us as teachers to collaborate professionally. So one of the things we really wanted was time, preparation time, to talk to each other and to get things done, and if possible, to meet with the kids during that period of time. We had some of it at the high school, but the elementary teachers didn't. So the elementary teachers often got in first thing in the morning and went straight through because some of them were eating lunch with their children. So we wanted to guarantee that they would have some time. And of course we wanted an increase in salary. You know, I mean, this is what you want every year. You want to keep up with inflation. And as I look back at it now, you know, I don't blame the city because we had, this was in 1987, and in the early 1980s, Proposition 2.5 was voted in. And that meant that the city could not raise taxes any more than 2.5%.
Right, I remember that.
So they didn't have the kind of resources that they needed. And sometimes, you know, you just can't agree. At that time, there were strikes all over New England. It was a period of time when there was a lot of discontent. And we were actually on strike for only 3 days. Wednesday, we started school Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. And we marched around. There was a lot of hard feeling on both sides. But you know, we're Revere people. We got over that hard feeling, you know, and we went back to work. And the state, you know, the state is responsible for the education. They're supposed to be in there paying for it, or the vast majority of it anyway.
Right.
And so they finally passed Education Reform 1. And I call it 1. They didn't call it 1 because I'm waiting for an Education Reform 2 because we need it. I was lucky. By the time I became superintendent, education reform had been voted in. Thank you to our Senator, Thomas Birmingham. And he led the way. He was the president of the Senate, and he led the way. And so there was a big infusion of money into the school system. So in the late 80s and early 90s, when we had no money for music, for art, for theater, for any of the things that really, you know, that's what we judge our civilization on. And we had no money for that. They put money back into the school department, and I could bring back music and art. That's when we started having every kid in the 3rd grade learn to play the recorder. Yeah. We brought back some little bands around. We still don't have a huge music program. Like, we don't have a band. But that's usually done by parents and by outsiders. There are very few cities that fund their own band. But so now, over a period of time, I mean, we have terrible finances. You listen to the superintendent explain how that last year, when they changed the way we were given our money for educating the economically disadvantaged kids, we lost the funding for 2,227 kids. That's huge. And if Bob DeLeo hadn't stepped in and made sure we got some pothole money, we got some money to deal with that. But the DESE, the State Department of Education, has got to step up to the plate. The number one, what they have to do is They have to fix that formula so that it will be fair to poor kids in Revere. And secondly, they need to do an education reform too, because we are not going to be able to keep operating at the high level we're operating at if they don't. And they know that.
Carol, I'd like to ask you a personal question. As a teacher, when you first started,
Yep.
the first paycheck you got, then as compared to the last paycheck you got as a teacher, not as a superintendent, how big a difference was there between the first and the last?
Well, I remember exactly what I got paid for the year, the first one. I got paid.
Oh, you get paid by the year?
No, but I remember the contract, the first contract I signed was for $4,000.
For the year?
Yes, for the year. And I went out and bought a car from Parati's on Broadway. I thought it was like a sharp car. I loved it, you know. And but I couldn't keep up the payments because I didn't get paid enough. So a kid that I taught in high school who lived near me, I sold my car, you know, and I was still paying for it actually. And the kid said, "Miss Ty, I have a car. I'll come down, I'll pick you up." So he picked me up in the morning, most mornings, drove me to school, and I took the bus home. And in the spring, I rode my bicycle back and forth. That's how I got to school. I couldn't afford to buy a car for a couple of years. And and I don't remember the last salary I got, but it was, I think it was about 80,000, maybe 75 or 80,000.
Can I say one thing?
Yeah.
I want to go back to the first one.
Oh, that was as a superintendent. Oh, as a teacher, I
As a
think maybe
teacher.
my last salary was around 45 or 50,000. I'm not
$4,000
sure.
a year is only $80 a week.
Yeah, it was awful. That's why I had to ride a bicycle to school. Yeah, it was.
Now I'm going to tell you
But
one-
prices were cheaper then too.
Right, now I'm going to
And I lived at home with my parents, so.
When I came up here in Massachusetts with my wife way back in the early 50s, I guess, before we were married, yeah, late 40s, I should say, I went looking for a job. I got a job in Lynn, Massachusetts, which at one time when I was there was a big shoe factory industry there.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
50 cents an hour, $20 a week is what I was making, $20 a week. And out of that, I paid the rent of my house, the food, an apartment, and traveled for 10 cents, a nickel one way and nickel back.
Yeah, right. When I worked at Ocean View Dance Hall. on
Oh, I
Revere
remember
Beach.
that good. I lived right across the street on
Right,
Dolphin
you
Avenue.
did, right. Yeah, right there. That's, I got paid 45 cents an hour. I did get tips. When I worked as a hat check girl, I got some tips. But
So you worked at the one,
I worked at Ocean View Ballroom. Yeah.
they had some big bands that were good ones there.
And they did, and it helped me pay my tuition to go to college.
And
I
there
worked
was
there all through college.
A little place across the street from that, just reminiscing, a little club, was a Squire Club or whatever, not the Squire Club.
No.
A little place where Dick Contino, the great accordionist, used to come down there and play.
Oh, yeah.
Yep, years
Yeah.
ago. What a small world.
Oh, what do you know?
We only got about 4.5 minutes. I got another final question.
Well, let me tell you something I think we need, all right?
Shoot.
We need a new high school.
Oh, I was going to get to
All
that.
right. I think we desperately need a new high school. We're way overcrowded in all our schools. Oh, you're going to ask me that?
Let
All
me
right.
tell you what the question is. You must have read my mind. I'm getting worried now. What is the greatest challenge to the school committee about building a new high school?
That's it. It's building. That's it. We desperately need a new high school. We submitted a proposal, you know, to fix the science labs, and the state said, no, you can't fix that building, you know. Now, what we could do is if we build a new high school, and the challenge is to find a place in this city where we can put it. But if we build it, we're overcrowded in our elementary. Our third grades right now are jammed, those elementary schools. So we could take the current high school, make the 3 middle schools, we could do that building over, and make it for the 3 middle schools, and open up the 3 middle schools now for elementary students. And then we would be able to house our whole population. That would
Where would you still
work.
put the high school, though?
Well, that's the challenge.
Okay, let me tell you what some of the people said that were here. Maybe
Okay.
they said to build the new high school on the field. That's what the high school is now,
Well,
the
then
field, the
we'll
field.
lose the field.
temporarily. But they can use De La Russa Stadium to do their sports activities till the new high school is finished and the old high school is torn down, and that part becomes the new field for the new high school.
Here's what's wrong with that.
Shoot.
Where are we going to build another elementary school or middle school that we need? We don't have enough room. You know, we used to have K through 6 at the elementary schools. So now I'm not sure that my plan, you know, I'm not the only one. I'm not the originator even of that plan. But to me, that makes the most sense. Because either that or we have to find a place to build another elementary school or another elementary/middle school. But we'd have to start maneuvering to change that. So if we could find a place to put the new high school, leave that one where it is, then we would be golden to take care of the population, the huge population that we have around the 3rd and 4th grade now. But that's a big if, Morris.
But let me ask you this. Regardless, you're still going to need a new high school somewhere.
We definitely will need it somewhere. You know, I was lucky enough, and I have to give credit to Paul Dakin for this, but in December of 1999, when I was still superintendent, and Bobby Has, may he rest in peace, was still mayor, we submitted on behalf of the then school committee. There's plenty of credit to go around, and we all stand on each other's shoulders. We all owe something to the people who came before us. But we submitted the plan for 5 new schools in the city of Revere in 1999.
You just
now,
got
it
some built.
took us a lot longer to build it than we had expected, but we didn't expect that there would be a terrible recession the way we did have.
No.
But nevertheless, we managed to get them all built. And now we desperately need a new high school. No matter how you look at it, that's what we need. And that's a challenge for us.
I had a final question here, but I don't know where I wrote it, so I'll ad-lib it.
Okay.
What do you see for the future of the city of Revere? Really, I'm sorry, we're out of time. Take 30 seconds to wrap it up.
I'm very optimistic about the future of Revere. I love to see all the new folks that are coming in. I love to see the new energy. I loved having, we had an art festival in Beachmont. There's one on Shirley Avenue. There's one on this. There's so much going on around this city, and that's been true for quite a while.
Right.
I'm very, very optimistic about the future of Revere. But we do need building, and remember, it's the school department success that draws people, young families, to move in and to stay here in Revere.
Right.
So
I want to say, Carol, it was an honor and a pleasure to have you come up here. I hope to see you many more times. We love you here in the city of Revere. And I want to say good luck to you. God bless you, and I hope you have a great success on the school committee.
thank you so much.
And I would like to thank the people of Revere for listening. Our troops who are serving and who have served, thank you all for your service. Thank you again, people of Revere, but most of all, God bless our great country, the United States of America.